Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video, see me use my new Christmas reindeer moulds from Let's Resin to create super cute, super fun Christmas decorations. If you like the sound of that, stay tuned and enjoy the video. So here are the Christmas reindeer moulds all ready to go, and they were well packaged as always. They came with those red ribbons as well to go around the necks if you want to give them a bow around the neck, and there were lots of those. I don't know how many, but there were a lot. And of course there's the instruction booklet, and as usual it labels on the mould how much resin you need to mix up for that mould, which is very useful. I decided I wanted all the antlers to be gold, so before I started mixing up any resin, I brushed the moulds with the gold pigment powder that I had. And at this stage you might also want to add some pigment powders to the hats on each reindeer, because there is a ridge dividing the hat from the head, so it would be easy to put some pigment powder on the hat without getting it all over your reindeer. I didn't think of that at the time, and I added pigment later on, and I'll show you how I did that. It was very easy. But yeah, I think if you're going to colour the hat with pigment powders, now is the time to do it. The next job is to give them all glittery red noses, and here I have my Let's Resin epoxy resin. It's just the regular epoxy resin. It's a 1:1 mixing ratio by volume. And I did kind of have to guess how much I would need for the noses, because obviously the numbers are on the moulds, but that tells you how much you need if you're going to completely fill the mould. And I made life difficult for myself by just wanting to start by filling the noses. But never mind, I'm quite good at guessing, and I always think as long as I've got enough, it doesn't matter if I've got too much. I do always tend to overcompensate, and yeah, I've always got a use for the leftovers anyway. Anyway, once I'd finished measuring, I gave it a good mix with my automatic mixer, also from Let's Resin. And then I moved it along to my bubble removal machine, also from Let's Resin. There wasn't actually very much to see because my resin already had very few bubbles in there because I had preheated it, and when you do that it's usually a lot clearer. And yeah, I did the normal cycle that I always do with my bubble removal machine, but yeah, there wasn't really much to see. But I wanted to show you anyway, just the process that I always go through with my resin. And while we're looking at the Let's Resin tools, let me take this moment to tell you that this month marks the 7-year birthday of Let's Resin, and they're celebrating with a sale on their tools. From the 15th to the 21st of September 2025, you can enjoy 15% off on Let's Resin's tools. So check out my video description for details on that. Happy birthday, Let's Resin. And there you can see just how clear the resin came out. So now it's time to add some glitter. I needed to buy this especially for this project. I knew I wanted to use red glitter on those noses, and I didn't have any at all. So yeah, I treated myself to a nice pot of bright red glitter. I have been known to say that I'm really not a glittery kind of person, but sometimes it's just the perfect thing. And I think for all these reindeers' noses, there was no other way to do it. It had to be red and it had to be glittery, and it did turn out so good. Once I'd mixed all that in, I started to pour, and I did notice that it wasn't quite as filled up with glitter as I would like it to be. So after doing that first nose, I did add a little bit more. And then, yeah, I just filled them all up, and that was when I realised that, yes, I had indeed mixed up too much resin, but that was okay because I filled up some of the bases with the leftover red glittery resin. The next day, when the red resin was cured, I mixed up the rest of the resin that I would need to fill up the moulds. For the two largest reindeer, I decided to use brown mica powder from my set of mica powders from Let's Resin. I'd been in two minds about how I wanted these reindeer to look. Part of me wanted to keep it very simple, but another part of me wanted to try out the new set of alcohol inks that I'd just received from Let's Resin. I was thinking of doing the petri effect, petri dish effect, is that what they call it? No, the petri effect, yeah. Depending on what part of the world you come from. I know some people say petri, don't they? But yeah, I wanted to try the petri effect as well. So I decided on a bit of both. So here I'm just mixing some lighter brown and darker brown for my first two larger reindeers. And that brown I just mixed didn't have red glitter in. It might have looked a bit confusing. It was just the same pot that I used the previous day. The resin was cured, so there was no danger of any red glitter getting into the brown. I just didn't want to waste the cup. I like to reuse them. When my two shades of brown were all mixed up, I poured them into the two largest of the reindeer, starting with the light brown on its belly and then filling it up with the darker brown. I didn't want to do anything too fancy. I just thought let's get it in there because I still had all the petri effect ones to do, and I didn't want the rest of my clear resin to start getting too thick or hot. Don't leave your clear resin stood in the jar for too long. And that's what I was concerned about. So yeah, I was rushing here a little bit, and that's okay. I didn't want any fancy effects anyway. With my first two reindeers poured, it was time to add the clear to the rest of the four reindeers, and then I could start dropping in my inks. Here is the mega set of 64 inks that I just received from Let's Resin. They have metallic and pastel inks in there, as well as your regular vibrant colours. Look at all of those. So yeah, I was well prepared to have a go at the petri effect, which is explained in the instructions that come with the inks. I have done the petri effects before, but it was a long time ago, and I'm a little bit out of practice. So yeah, I was hoping for the best, which is what you have to do with this. You never know how it's turned out until you do the demoulding. I'd selected some colours already. I took about 3 different shades of each colour. I had a blue one and a green one with more purpley colours in, and a brown one with some of the metallics in. I wanted to try mixing 3 colours from the same colour group. So here I'm doing the blues, but I wanted the vibrant colour along with the pastel colour in each one to see how they would look if I combined the pastel with the vibrant colour. Rather than having lots of different colours, I wanted to kind of keep with the same colour group for each one, and so that's why these ones are all different shades of blue. Okay, so now I'm speeding it all up because I did spend a long time on it. Basically, all I'm doing here is adding my colours in each one. No white yet, just the colours, making sure it's all completely covered. And then once I'd put all the colours into each one, that was when I started adding the drops of white. You do kind of need practice when you're doing this. I do remember from when I tried it in the past, if you add too much alcohol ink, it can affect the curing of your piece, and your resin can be quite bendy. And if you don't add enough, it kind of travels to the centre of the piece and you end up with a clear gap around the edges. So it's kind of a case of finding the balance between them. But anyway, I hoped I'd done it just about right. Here you can see me adding the white drops of ink. And after I did that, with my leftover resin, I added some of the opal glitters from Let's Resin to fill in the last 2 bases. After I finished that, I went round again with the white ink, just adding one final layer. And the next day, it was time to get them out of the mould and see how they had turned out. I think they turned out really good. I know the effect isn't so dramatic, and it could have been a little bit more dramatic if I'd wanted it to be by adding some more white. But yeah, like I say, it takes practice to know just how much to add. The danger is if you add too much, it can kind of sink too far to the bottom of the mould. This turned out just about right. This one was my favourite actually. I love the texture that you get with it, and the fun, aren't they, with adding those colours. It makes it so much more fun, and I was pleased with how they all turned out. Let's give them some eyes. I used the white alcohol ink, just dripped into the eye cavity areas, and that seemed to work really well at just filling them up nice and easily. When the white ink had all dried, I added some black acrylic paint with a dotting tool to make some black pupils. When the paint was dry, to protect the eyes, I decided to add a drop of Let's Resin's UV resin into each eye cavity. The only trouble is, after I'd finished doing that on all of the reindeer, I just wasn't happy with the eyes. The pupils looked a little bit too beady, and yeah, they looked like they were under the influence of something, don't they? They just don't look quite right. So I did decide to make the pupils larger. I happened to have some, I can't remember what you call it. It's like is it contour paste? I decided to squeeze that onto there to make some larger pupils. And after that, it did look better. Oh yeah, here it is, Contour Paste by Marabou. I've had that in my drawer for years. You don't need this for this project. Use what you have. Paint would do the job fine. I just thought, why not try it? And it turned out okay. It was a bit tricky to work with, probably because it was too old. It had been, like I say, in my drawer a long time, and it came out very thick and it was hard to control, but it did work, giving some, depth and texture to the eyes. They just looked so much better, and I was glad I did that in the end. Next, it was time to give them colourful hats. As I said right at the beginning, you could have brushed mica powders or chameleon powders onto the mould, but I didn't. Instead, I'm adding some UV resin from Let's Resin just here, very carefully. Don't add too much, and then you should be okay. And then just move it around so that it reaches all the edges, and then you can put it under your UV lamp just for about 10 seconds. You don't want to give it the full 2 minutes because it will lose its tackiness. If you're wanting to brush on coloured powders or chameleon powders, whatever you're using, it needs to be still tacky. So only give it 10 seconds or 20 seconds, something like that. Not too long though. And you can always finish it off after, you've added all your colours to make sure it's completely cured. So there it is, all in place. I gave it my few seconds, and then I added some chameleon flakes from Let's Resin. The sets of chameleon powders and chameleon flakes from Let's Resin do come with a brush, which just makes the application very easy. It's a nice soft brush. And I love the overall effect you get from doing this. I made a bit of a mess. You can see his face needs a wash. But yeah, I'm very happy with the hat there. And I did the same with all of them, and they look so much better in the end. With the hats finished, it was time to add the reindeer to the bases, and for that I used E6000 glue. Next, I wanted to try out an idea I had to attach some white pom-poms to the base of the smaller reindeer. I decided UV resin was probably the best thing to attach the pom-poms to the resin base. I didn't think something like PVA glue would be a very permanent option for, attaching pom-poms to resin. I just didn't think it would work. But once I'd done that first layer and cured it on my UV lamp from underneath, obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't cure, I then used PVA glue to attach the second layer on top of the first layer because I knew that PVA glue would bond two pom-poms together. I just didn't think it would work for the resin base. So I did that for both of the smaller ones, and I think they look great, like they're just about to have a snowball fight. I added red ribbons around the necks of the two largest reindeer, and I think they look good too. And yeah, overall, I think they all look really fun, and it's made me feel quite Christmassy, even though it's only September. So if anything has caught your eye today, please check out my video description for links and discount codes, especially if you would like to take advantage of the birthday sale for those resin tools. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to, and I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.